Hi there, in this first video about the game of Sticks, we're going to start setting up the game and run one turn of the game. And as you can see in the comments in my game file here, these are the specific tasks that we're going to do. So let's get started. First, we will display the introductory game information to the user. So think for a minute about how you might go about doing that. We'll use a few print statements to do that. So first, let's just print welcome to Game of Sticks. And just to make sure that I have everything, like all the wires connected correctly, I'm just going to run this with this really easy print statement here first. Game.py, I always like to just make sure, good, all right, I have a running program. You never want to be too far away from a running program. So let's go back here and we can spruce this up a little bit, maybe throw in a box, and this is optional, of course, but I can sort of do something that sort of vaguely centers it here. That looks like this should do it. Let's just have a look at this now. Whoops. Good. Welcome to the game of Sticks. All right. And maybe we want to do just a blank line. Actually, let's put a blank line before it too. Looks a little cooler that way. And then we can start, we can mention what the objective is. The goal is your goal is to force the other player to pick up the last stick. Now, notice that my line of code there gets a little long, so I'm going to cut it off right here and do it like that. We don't need all these exclamation points. And looks like we are done with this first task of displaying the intro info for the game. You know, obviously there's lots of different ways you can go about doing this, so you could do some other things in there as well. Okay, so let's look at our next task. Create the state variables. A state variable is a variable that remembers information about the state of the game. That's like the current conditions of the game at any given time. The state of the weather right now, as I look out my window, is it's partly cloudy, and I was outside not too long ago. I think it's about 70 degrees. So the state variables for the current weather would be cloudiness equals partly, temp equals 70. So what are the state variables that we're going to need to create for this game? Or asked another way, what's the continuously updated information about the game that kind of describes where the game is at any given point in time? So that's the information that we're going to need to put into our code here. The two main things that we're going to want to remember are how many sticks are currently on the table. We'll just initialize that to a 21 for this game. You could ask the user for that information if you want, but we'll just stick with hard coding it as 21 for now. The other thing that's continuously changing through the game that we're going to want to remember at any given point is which player's turn it is. So we say, what's a good variable name for this? Player or turn? Let's do player, because turn might mean like the turn count. You know, we've done 10 turns in the game so far or something like that. So let's do player here. Good. Now I can run my code just to make sure it's runnable. Whoops. I do have an error. So what did I do here? Oh yeah, look at that typo there. All right. That was probably from trying to Option S over to the other tab here. Good. So my game still runs. Let's do things now. We're going to, our next task is print the start of a turn. All right, so we'll use our state variables right here in the start of a turn. So I'm going to use f strings to do this print statement, and I'll show you what that means in a sec. First, let's do it without the f strings. Just regular player one, it's your turn. And we could say, we should tell them how many sticks are on the table. There are 21 sticks on the table. Print how many do you take? Well, let's save that for the next task, get player info input. So this is the beginning of the turn, right? So I can come over here. I'm kind of fanatic for continuously running my code. Good. Player 1, it's your turn, 21 sticks. I would kind of like to put a blank line at the start of this. So that looks a little bit better. So there's a problem here, of course, which is it's not always going to be player 1's turn. There's not always going to be 21 sticks on the table. It would be better if we printed the variable value there rather than hard coding in the actual number. So when the variable changes, it'll print the new value. So F strings are a good way to do that. To use F strings, we'll put an F right before the opening quotes of my string. And then the thing that we want to change with a variable in the display, we will delete and replace with open, close, curly brace. And inside the curly braces, we write the variable name. So this is an F string now. It starts with just a lowercase f, immediately has the string after it, and then inside the string we have curly braces surrounding the variable name at the location that we want to print that. And let's, while we're here, update this one as well. So I add the F and I'm going to remove the 21, replace it with curly braces, and inside those curly braces write the name of the variable that I want to display, which would be sticks. So let's see this. This should print the exact same thing because my variable values are 21 and 1, but now it's not hard-coded in the print statement, and good. So I'll clear that. Let's come back up here and see what our next task is. Get player input is our next task. Okay, so first moment of interactivity in the game. Let's do that with an input statement. So we do input, how many sticks do you take? And I like to end that with a space so that the flashing cursor that's waiting for the user input happens one space away from the question mark. It's just a nice stylistic thing to do. And then we want to store whatever the result of whatever the user types in a variable. So we're going to need to use equals gets here and a new variable name like pickup for the number of sticks that they're picking up. So pickup gets the input from the user after being prompted, how many sticks do you take? And then for now, let's just print the pickup value so that we know that the question resulted okay. So player 1, it's your turn, 21 sticks on the table. How many do you take? 3. Perfect. Now there is one problem here. Let's try to print. Let's try to print the result of subtracting the pickup number of sticks that were picked up from the total number of sticks. So the number of sticks remaining on the table after the pickup. So we can say print the pickup, and then we can print sticks minus pickup. That should show us how many sticks are left after the pickup. Right, how many sticks you take? 3. I wanted to say it's going to print 18, but I get an error here. Type error, unsupported operand. An operand is the thing on either side of an operator. For minus, int and string. So this means that there's a problem here with trying to subtract int minus a string. So I didn't enter a string here. I entered a 3, which is a number. That's a, remember, when Python takes user input, it stores it as a string. And so if we want to store it as a number, we need to explicitly convert it to an integer. And we can do that by wrapping this whole input statement inside a call to the int function. So this whole thing that I have highlighted will go inside an int function call. So int open parentheses, and at the end, I'll put the matching close parentheses. So I'm going to just put a couple spaces so it's a little easier to see here. Here's the start of the int. There's the end of the int. And everything that's in between that start and end will be converted to an integer. So we'll get this input. The result of that input will be converted to an integer. And then that result gets stored in the variable pickup. Now I should have a number I can work with here. How many sticks do you take? 3, and we have 3 and 18. All right, let's get back up to the top of the screen there. Good. Okay, now we're on to our last task here, which is updating the state variables. So remember what those state variables are. That's the player whose turn it is, and the sticks are memory of how many sticks are on the table. So think about how you would update the state variables. Okay, let's update the sticks variable first. We kind of already did that here, but we didn't quite do it. What's the problem with that? Yeah, we didn't store the result in a variable. We did this little bit of math and printed it, but it didn't change any variable values doing this math here. So we need to say sticks gets sticks minus pickup. So we do our calculation here and then assign the result back to the sticks variable. And then the other variable, state variable we have up here that we want to update would be the player whose turn it is. So if it's player 1, we want to make it player 2's turn, which would be adding 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2. But if it's player 2's turn, we want to go back to player 1. So I think I'll just use an if statement here. So if player equals 1, then we will set player equal to 2. Else if player currently equals 2, we will set the result back to 1. Now, why not just do I'm using an elif structure here. Why not just do an if or even an else? I will leave that up to you to experiment with if you'd like. I, as a programmer, am choosing an elif here because to me it feels like this is the easiest way to be clear about what I'm doing and also to expand, make my game able to be expanded at some point in the future if I wanted to allow for more than 2 players. So I will save that. I'm going to just clean up my print statements up here. I don't need those anymore. And to see the result of these things, I'm just going to go back up here and like start the next turn. So we'll just copy this down to the bottom here and say, so that after I update my state variables, I'm ready for the next turn. And so I just copy pasted from up there. We should see now player 2, it's your turn. And there are 18 sticks on the table if I took away 3, or 19 if I took away 2. All right, so let's test this out. Welcome to Game of Sticks. How many sticks do you take? Let's take 3. Player 2, it's your turn, 18 sticks. Hey, that looked good. I'm going to do this one more time just with different numbers and see if this works. So let's just take 1 stick this time. We should see 20 sticks on the table. Good, so in the next video we'll expand this out so that we can have a looping structure to our game so it's continuously running until we get to like the end state of the game.